Pro Best in the World can be viewed on pay-per-view and through Honor Club, free for all VIP members, and 50% off for all regular members, on June 29 at 9 p.m. ET. For more information about Honor Club, including how to subscribe, head here. Matt Taven and the rest of the Kingdom will be wrestling Los Ingobernables to Japan for the ROH 6-man Tag Team Championships. Josiah McDonald. Hi Matt, thanks for taking the time out of your day for this interview. Matt Taven, thanks for having me. JMD, a few weeks ago, I had the privilege of interviewing Vinny Marseglia. He's a fellow member of the Kingdom, and he mentioned that you both came up through the same training school. Could you tell us if you were a wrestling fan growing up, and about your early career and how you got your start? MT, I was a wrestling fan from when I was 5 or 6 years old. The first time wrestling really caught my attention was when my great-uncle Joe was over, and he wanted to watch wrestling. We found it on the TV, and one of the first things I saw was The Ultimate Warrior. I remembered all the colors, the lights, and the pageantry, and it was what I wanted to do. I remember going from the cartoon phase with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles right into wrestling. I've been a fan my entire life. It was one of those things where my parents weren't the biggest wrestling fans. They never really understood the wrestling thing. Obviously, they're big supporters of me now. I remember begging my parents to go to a show at the Boston Garden, and afterwards they would say, "You really like this? You want to go back to this?" So, it was one of those things that was always there growing up. Anytime I talked about wanting to be a pro wrestler, my dad would say, "You're going to go to college." I always thought about it and wondered about it, and it wasn't until after I graduated that it happened. I was working in the front office of Kraft Sports Group for the New England Patriots. One of my buddies that I did backyard wrestling with was doing indie wrestling in Massachusetts, and I thought, yeah, I can do this. I'm better than all these guys. First day, you hit the ring, and you're like, oh, that's what this is really like. I just remember that it was one of those things I wanted to do since I was a kid, and I just decided to jump in with 2 feet and joined the circus. The first time I met Vinny was probably that first day of training. I've known him since day one. I started dipping my toes in independent wrestling, and someone told me to train with Spike Dudley. When the option was given to me and Vinny, we jumped on it. We always had each other in class, and after class we'd do the mark things we wanted to do growing up. After class, we'd say, "Do you want to try the swanton off the top?" Me and Vinny have loved wrestling forever and always wanted to do it. We found our calling. We had no idea what the outcome would be, and our characters have changed so much, but it was obvious that me, him, Jimmy Preston, and a couple of other guys training with Spike Dudley definitely had a future in wrestling. JMD, Vinny told us that training with Spike was really great and highly recommended it. MT, you know Spike Dudley the character, but you didn't know Spike Dudley the human or what his wrestling knowledge is. You think you're smart to wrestling, and you get there, and you find out that Spike knows everything about wrestling, and I knew nothing. It was a big reality check. Spike is so talented. I wish people knew how great Spike Dudley is. He was a fantastic trainer. It was through Spike that I met a lot of people, including Mike Bennett, who had a big influence on my career. You knew you were going in the right direction training with Spike. All the guys who stuck around and learned under Spike Dudley speaks for itself with the type of success they had. Page 2 credit, Ring of Honor, James Muscle White Josiah McDonald. You got to spend some time working in New Japan Pro Wrestling, with Michael Bennett taking the Kingdom to Japan and winning the IWGP Tag Team Championship. Could you tell us a bit about what that time was like for you? MT, at the time you don't really appreciate it, but you do when you look back on it. Me and Mike don't see each other as much as we used to, but when we do meet up, we say, "Remember when we did this?" That was cool. Looking back on it, it was more other people's reaction too. You're going so much in professional wrestling that you don't really have a chance to smell the roses. It's go, 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 and worrying about making your career progress forward. I remember it like it was yesterday. After it happened, even with the 13-hour time difference between here and Japan, our phones were blowing up and people were making it into a big deal for our career. That's when it set in, and I thought, we did do this. I grew up knowing about the IWGP tag titles and all these tag teams like the Road Warriors and seeing the titles on WCW as a kid. My name is on that list. I'm sure I don't appreciate the magnitude of it today, but when wrestling is all said and done, looking back on my career, winning the IWGP tag titles in a sold-out sumo hall will be one of the stories I tell to my grandkids. JMD, speaking of New Japan, could we ever see you appear in a tournament like the G1 or the Kingdom, make an appearance to go after the Never six-man tag team titles? MT, one of the big things about this match coming up at Best in the World is that we are facing the former Never Openweight six-man champs. Once we win, because that's what the Kingdom does, I want New Japan to recognize it. I want the Ring of Honor six-man champs against the Never Openweight six-man champs. Let's go to Mexico too. Let's go to CMLL, and let's find out who the best trio is in the world. I'll put the Kingdom against any trio out there. If New Japan wants it, so do we. Page 3. Use your ROH to browse. Josiah McDonald. October 1, 2016 was a very important date for the Kingdom. The Matt Taven-led Kingdom debuted in Ring of Honor. I spoke to Vinny about this, but I was wondering if I could get your perspective on that day. Matt Taven, it was a crazy day. It was my goal while rehabbing my knee injury was to be back by October 1st and make my comeback in Lowell, Massachusetts in front of the hometown crowd. Out of nowhere, CMLL asked me to come down to Mexico and do a tour. So, being a fan since I was a kid, and someone told me I was going down to Arena Mexico, of course I said, yep. I ended coming back almost a month early and rushed my rehab to make sure I was down there in Mexico. It all happened so quickly. 1 second I was setting up my rehab, to all of a sudden you're packing your bags, and then walking down the ramp at Arena Mexico with a knee brace you never used before. Your head is spinning. When I got back home, October 1st was here, and I didn't really have a chance to process it all. That's why I was so grateful for Vinny and TK Orion to be by my side and have their support and have them to lean on if I was second-guessing anything concerning my knee when I came back. They were a big crutch for me, and even though I was back and felt good, you think I feel good, it's nothing like being in the ring for the first time. No training in the world can prepare you for how your knee is going to react to things in the ring. To have them there was a huge bonus for me, and I'm very thankful for them. Use your ROH to browse.